My name's Matthew Boden. I work under the name Matthew Valentine, and I'm an entertainer. So I was doing a show a few years ago in Westminster at Trafalgar Square. Westminster Council immediately arrived at the show and essentially tell me that I have to stop entertaining. Unfortunately, he has the weight of Westminster and the whole bureaucracy behind him. So he comes back with the cops, the fuzz, and essentially turns around to me and repeats one line of the legislation constantly. He then turns around to the police officer informs me if I don't give my name, then I'm going to be arrested. So I'm put in the slammer. They keep me in there for nearly 5 hours. Basically their case was to prove that I was creating a sound which was so loud, continuous or repeated to give reasonable cause for annoyance.
Today I have the pleasure of going to court. It's Matthew Boden versus Westminster Council. And I'm going to be attempting to defend Westminster Council's belief that street performance, the noise that's created from it, is more or less automatically an annoyance to the neighbourhood. The best thing that can happen is I win. If we win, that sets precedent. It means that street performers in future have a lot more stable ground when it comes to dealing with Westminster Council. And also as well, after 5 years of being attempted to be oppressed by Westminster Council, it's nice to have a small victory.
If I win, I'm going to be elated. Not just happy for myself because I've dodged a bullet, but also happy because I've managed to help in our battle to make the streets freer.
Is it going to prove anything?
It'll prove something to the council. I think the public aren't quite prepared yet to have something proved to them this way, but I think to the council it'll prove that we won't be pushed around, that we can't be bullied, economically bullied by misuse of legislation, and it'll mean that we will stand up for ourselves and I'll think twice before doing this again. If I lose, first of all, it means the battle's not over. I haven't come this far to give up just after one judgment, but it does mean that economically I will be really badly hurt. I'm probably going to face up to £10,000 fines, and I will be very upset.
What was the result?
Guilty on both charges.
And the result?
The result means that no precedent was set. It meant that essentially they said yes, that my show was reasonably annoying. I got given a conditional discharge, which essentially means that they thought that there was no charge worth giving for that.
How do you feel?
I'm fucking gutted.
The problem I think in this magistrate's court is that they automatically view with the authorities. They have a lot more status than I do. I'm a scummy street performer. Essentially, he described me as somebody who walked out there from start to finish, was shouting, screaming, with no change in volume, playing music absurdly loud, doing these ridiculous gestures, shouting when I had the music on. The judge turned around to my barrister after a really long debate about legislation and turned around to Aaron and said, so what you're basically implying is that he was a jumped up authoritarian busybody. To which Aaron described the answer as saying yes. So after cross-examination, the prosecution read out their expert witness, and his testimony essentially said that my music was so loud that he couldn't even have a conversation. He had to stop his conversation. He could not carry on talking because I was so loud. We got our defence expert to take the stand, and he said that at the distance that Mr. Showman was describing, it still would be, using the laws of physics, impossible for him to be stopped having a conversation. He was then asked about the prosecution's expert testimony. He then said that the testimony was at best unfortunate, at worst misleading. So then the judge comes out, quite stone-faced, as judges generally are. He did the recap of the evidence and what was going on. Then he said, we find Mr. Boden not guilty on both counts, and that felt incredible. It's vindication. It meant that suddenly the system worked.
And how did you feel?
I felt amazing. I just thought the fact that I stood up for what I thought was right, I put myself in the line of fire because I believed that the legal system could work, the fact that that was proven to me that it did work was amazing, you know. What it has done, I think, is it's chipped away at Westminster in particular, their idea that they can push people around, not just street performers, individuals, anybody who wants to go out on the street and express themselves. It's just a little stop, a little hurdle in their way from getting rid of people's personal freedom to be able to go out and express themselves in public without their permission or license.